Good evening. This is The Cold Report. Tonight, we're talking about a relationship that used to be taken for granted and is now quietly under strain. The relationship between the United States and South Africa.
This is not a breaking news story. There was no single explosion, no dramatic collapse, just a slow accumulation of tension, disagreement, and mistrust.
And that's often how relationships between countries actually deteriorate, not loudly, but gradually.
What we're seeing now is the result of years of unresolved differences, exposed by recent diplomatic incidents and political narratives that have been allowed to harden.
To understand where things stand now, we need to briefly revisit where the relationship started.
After the end of apartheid in 1994, the United States became one of South Africa's most important international partners, politically, economically, symbolically.
The United States supported South Africa's democratic transition through development assistance, trade access, and long-term health programs. Most notably, sustained funding for HIV and AIDS treatment.
South Africa, in turn, was viewed as a democratic success story, a country that had avoided civil war, a regional leader, a bridge between the global South and Western institutions.
That partnership rested on a set of assumptions, not written down, but clearly understood.
That South Africa would broadly align with liberal democratic values, that it would cooperate with Western partners on major global issues, and that it would not actively support actors hostile to U.S. strategic interests.
Over time, those assumptions began to erode.
South Africa's foreign policy increasingly emphasized non-alignment, at least in principle.
Non-alignment, in theory, means refusing to take sides in geopolitical conflicts.
In practice, however, it has often looked like selective alignment. When Russia invaded Ukraine, South Africa declined to condemn the invasion.
Instead, it called for dialogue and negotiation, without clearly naming an aggressor.
That decision alone strained relations with Washington, but it was not an isolated moment.
South Africa later participated in joint naval exercises with Russia and China, at a time when tensions between those countries and the United States were already high.
From South Africa's perspective, these moves were framed as sovereign decisions, as proof of independence. From the U.S. perspective, they raised serious questions about reliability and trust.
Those questions became much louder after a diplomatic incident in 2023.
An incident involving a Russian cargo vessel docked at a South African naval base.
The U.S. ambassador publicly stated that Washington believed weapons had been loaded onto the vessel.
This was an unusually direct accusation in diplomatic terms.
The South African government denied the claim.
An inquiry was announced.
But the process was slow, the scope was limited, and details were not made fully public.
The final conclusion was that there was no evidence of a weapons transfer.
But by that point, the damage was already done.
Diplomacy relies on trust.
And trust does not survive public allegations followed by quiet explanations. For Washington, the issue was never just about one ship. It was about whether South Africa could still be treated as a dependable partner, or whether its stated neutrality masked something more selective. Those doubts were never fully resolved.
They simply moved underground.
At the same time, another issue began to generate friction, one that is far more emotionally charged.
Claims involving white South Africans seeking asylum or refugee status in the United States.
This topic is often discussed in extreme terms and very rarely with precision.
So let's slow it down.
Some white South Africans have applied for asylum in the United States.
That is fact.
Those applications are processed under existing U.S. asylum law.
There is no special refugee program for white South Africans.
There is no official U.S. government recognition of genocide.
There is no mass resettlement plan.
Approval rates remain low and case-specific.
Each case is assessed individually as required by law.
Despite this, the issue has taken on a political life of its own.
In South Africa, these narratives are seen as undermining the legitimacy of the state.
They suggest an inability or unwillingness to protect citizens. They also reinforce racialized international stereotypes.
In the United States, the issue is often pulled into domestic political debates, used as an example in arguments about race, immigration, or state failure.
The result is distortion on both sides.
And quiet irritation at the diplomatic level.
Crime is a real and serious problem in South Africa.
High levels of violence, under-resourced policing, unequal protection.
What crime data does not show is systematic race-based persecution directed by the state.
Victimization cuts across racial and economic lines.
International refugee law makes a clear distinction.
Fear and insecurity are not the same as persecution.
This distinction matters legally and diplomatically. Another factor complicating relations is U.S. domestic politics.
South Africa increasingly appears in American political discourse as a symbol rather than a subject, a shorthand for decline, for instability, for ideological arguments.
That framing simplifies a complex reality.
It also makes serious diplomacy harder.
Because symbols don't negotiate, governments do. Strained political relations carry economic consequences.
Trade agreements depend on goodwill.
Investor confidence is sensitive to uncertainty.
And ambiguity quickly becomes risk.
One of the most concerning features of the current relationship is silence.
No clear diplomatic reset.
No comprehensive statement of alignment.
No long-term strategic roadmap.
Silence is often mistaken for neutrality.
It is not.
Silence is drift.
And drift weakens relationships faster than open disagreement.
South Africa wants sovereignty without consequence.
The United States wants partnership without uncertainty.
Both positions are understandable. They are not compatible forever.
This is not yet a crisis.
But it is no longer stable.
Relationships between countries rarely collapse overnight.
They cool gradually, until one day everyone notices the distance and no one remembers when it began. This has been the Cold Report,
where the facts remain even when the temperature drops.